The massive space station slowly turned in the darkness above Kepler 442b, its metal surface reflecting the pale light of the distant star. Inside the great chamber at its center, 12 different alien species sat around a table that could have held a small spaceship. The air buzzed with tension as translators worked overtime to change angry words from one language to another. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vrex Empire stood up so fast his chair fell backward. His lizard-like face was dark, red with anger, and his four-clawed hands shook as he pointed at the holographic display floating above the table. The display showed star maps with red dots marking human colonies that seemed to spread like a disease across the galaxy. "Look at this." Zethkar's voice came out as a harsh hiss through his translator. "The humans have taken 17 new star systems in just 1 year. 17. They ignore every message we send them. They laugh at our warnings. They treat our sacred hunting grounds like their personal playground." Elder Quinara of the Mindari race nodded slowly. Her large dark eyes reflected the blue light from the chamber's walls. She was tall and thin with pale skin that seemed to glow in the dim light. When she spoke, her voice was soft but carried across the room like a whisper in your ear. "My people have tried to read their minds," she said. "We can touch the thoughts of every other race in the galaxy, but humans, their minds are like walls made of steel. We cannot see what they think or plan. This makes them dangerous in ways we do not understand." The other ambassadors shifted in their seats. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others had fur or scales or skin that changed colors with their emotions. But they all shared the same worried look as they stared at the red dots on the display. Commander Veltar of the Aquatic Depths spoke next. His voice bubbled through the water-filled helmet he wore over his fish-like head. "My scouts report that human mining ships entered the Coral Nebula last month. That region has been off-limits for 300 years. When we asked them to leave, they said they would think about it. Think about it. As if our laws mean nothing to them. The humans are like children with no parents," growled General Rakhan of the Stonewalkers. His rocky skin scraped against his chair as he leaned forward. "They take what they want and go where they please. They have no respect for order or tradition." Ambassador Zethkar slammed his fist on the table, making the smaller aliens jump. "The final insult came 3 days ago. Our colony ship arrived at the world we call Sacred Hunting Ground. We have used that world for ritual hunts for over 500 years. But when we got there, we found humans already living on it. They have built towns and farms. They call it New Montana." The chamber filled with angry voices in a dozen different languages. The translators worked so hard they started to overheat and smoke. But Zethkar was not finished. "We told the humans they had to leave," he continued. "We explained that the world was sacred to our people. We offered to help them move to another planet. Do you know what they said?" The room went quiet. Everyone leaned forward to hear. They said they were too busy to move right now. Too busy. They suggested we file a complaint with their colonial office and wait for a response. They gave us a form to fill out. The anger in the room was so thick you could almost see it. Ambassador Thys of the Gas Giants made a sound like steam escaping from a pipe. "This cannot continue. The humans spread through our space like they own it. They take our resources and ignore our protests. Something must be done." Elder Quinara closed her eyes and pressed her long fingers to her temples. "I have spoken with the other elders of my race. We all agree that the humans pose a threat to the order of the galaxy. They are unpredictable. They do not follow the rules that have kept peace between our races for 1,000 years. "Then what do you propose we do?" asked Ambassador Krelek of the Hive Worlds. His insect-like head tilted to one side as he spoke. Zethkar looked around the table at each of the other ambassadors. His reptilian eyes were cold and hard. "There is only one choice left to us. We must declare war on the human race." The words hung in the air like a bad smell. War had not been declared by the Galactic Council in over 200 years. The last time, it had been against a race of robot ships that had tried to turn every living planet into metal. But that war had lasted only a few months before the robots were destroyed. "War is a serious step," said Ambassador Merlin of the Energy Beings. Her voice sounded like music mixed with static. "Are we certain there is no other way?" "We have tried everything else," Zethkar replied. We have sent diplomatic messages. We have offered trade agreements. We have even tried threatening them with our military fleets. Nothing works. They treat us like we are annoying insects that will go away if they ignore us long enough. General Rokhan's rocky fist made a grinding sound as he clenched it. My people have a saying, when words fail, weapons must speak. The humans will understand the language of force. But humans are known to be warriors, whispered Ambassador Sylvan of the Forest Worlds. The few reports we have suggest they have fought wars among themselves for thousands of years. Are we prepared for that kind of conflict? Zethkar's laugh was harsh and cold. They fight each other with primitive weapons and simple tactics. We have studied their military history. They use chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Meanwhile, we have energy weapons that can crack moons and shields that can stop their strongest attacks. Their largest warships are smaller than our patrol boats. Commander Veltar bubbled agreement through his water helmet. My deep space sensors show that most human colonies have no military defenses at all. They build farms and factories instead of weapons and walls. They are not prepared for real war. The debate continued for hours. Some ambassadors worried about the cost of war. Others feared that attacking humans might make other young races think the Council was too quick to use violence. But in the end, the evidence was too clear to ignore. Humans were spreading too fast and ignoring too many warnings. When the vote was finally called, it was unanimous. All 12 races agreed. War would be declared against the human species. The formal declaration was written in the ancient language of the first builders and translated into every major galactic tongue. It demanded that all human colonies return to their home system of Sol within one standard galactic year. Any humans found outside their home system after that time would be considered enemies of the Galactic Council and dealt with accordingly. The message was broadcast across subspace frequencies to every corner of the galaxy. It was sent to human colonies, mining stations, and exploration ships. It was even beamed toward Earth itself, though the signal would take years to reach that distant world. As the great space station continued its slow rotation above Kepler 442b, the ambassadors prepared to return to their home worlds. Fleets would need to be assembled. Weapons would need to be prepared. The galaxy was about to see its first major war in 2 centuries. But on a small moon orbiting Jupiter, construction worker Jake Murphy was having a very different kind of day. The coffee machine in the Luna City worksite had broken again, and the replacement parts were late. He spent most of his morning trying to fix it with spare wire and determination. He had no idea that 12 alien races had just declared war on his entire species. He was too busy trying to figure out why the machine kept making that weird clicking sound. 3 weeks had passed since the Galactic Council declared war on humanity. Admiral Zekmoth of the Vrex Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet move through space toward human territory. 847 warships spread out behind him like a metal cloud, their weapons charged and ready for battle. The Admiral's reptilian face showed satisfaction as he studied the tactical displays. His ships carried enough firepower to crack planets and turn moons into dust. The energy shields could stop anything the primitive humans might throw at them. This would be a quick war, he thought. The humans would surrender as soon as they saw his magnificent fleet. Admiral, called his communications officer, we are detecting a human vessel ahead. Zekmoth's eyes lit up. Finally, they would meet the enemy. He expected to see a massive battleship or perhaps a squadron of fighters coming to challenge his fleet. Instead, his screen showed a single cargo ship that looked like it had been built in someone's backyard. The vessel was painted bright yellow with faded letters on the side that read, Betty Sue. That cannot be their military response, Zekmoth muttered. Where are their warships, their defense fleets? The communications officer shrugged, a gesture he had learned from watching human movies. Sir, the cargo ship is hailing us. Put them through, the Admiral ordered. He straightened his uniform and prepared to receive the human's surrender. The main screen flickered to life, showing a man in his 40s wearing a stained work shirt and a baseball cap. He had 3 days of stubble on his face and looked like he had just woken up from a nap. This was Danny Clark, former truck driver and current space cargo hauler. "Yeah, what's up?" Danny said, scratching his stomach. "You guys need directions or something? I got GPS if you're lost." Admiral Zekmoth blinked in confusion. This was not how first contact with an enemy fleet was supposed to go. He cleared his throat and tried to look intimidating. "I am Admiral Zekmoth of the Vrex Imperial Navy," he announced. "You are now facing the combined military might of the Galactic Council. We have declared war on your species." Danny stared at him for a moment, then glanced at something off-screen. "War? Huh. Nobody told me about any war. When did that happen?" 3 weeks ago, Zekmoth replied, his voice rising. "The formal declaration was broadcast across all subspace frequencies. Your government must have received it." "Oh, that?" Danny waved his hand dismissively. "I don't really follow politics, you know. Too depressing. Look, I got a delivery schedule to keep. These prefab houses aren't going to deliver themselves to New Haven Colony. Can this wait until maybe next Tuesday? I should be done with my route by then." The Admiral felt his eye begin to twitch. "This is war. You cannot simply reschedule a war." Danny looked puzzled. "Why not? I reschedule deliveries all the time. Mrs. Henderson on Titan was supposed to get her new refrigerator last month, but she asked me to wait until her kitchen was finished. Same thing, right?" Several of the bridge officers behind Zekmoth began making choking sounds. The Admiral turned, to see his tactical commander holding his head in his hands. "Sir," the tactical commander whispered. "What do we do with him?" Zekmoth turned back to the screen. "Human, I demand your immediate surrender. You are outnumbered 847 to 1. Danny squinted at his own displays. 847? Wow, that's a lot of ships. What are you guys, some kind of space convoy? I used to organize those back on Earth, pain in the neck to coordinate, let me tell you. "We are a military fleet," Zekmoth shouted. "We are here to conquer your colonies and force your people back to your home system." "Conquer?" Danny looked genuinely confused. "That sounds like a lot of paperwork. Have you talked to Carol about this?" "She handles all the administrative stuff for New Haven. I just haul cargo." "Who is Carol?" "Carol White. She runs the colony office. Nice lady, makes great coffee. She'll get you sorted out with the proper forms and everything." Admiral Zekmoth felt a headache building behind his eyes. This was not going according to any military manual he had ever read. "We do not need forms, we are invading." "Well, you're going to need permits for that," Danny said helpfully. "Can't just land wherever you want. There are environmental regulations, and safety codes and all sorts of stuff. Carol's really good with that kind of thing." Before the Admiral could respond, Danny continued. "Tell you what, why don't you follow me to New Haven? I'll introduce you to Carol and she can help you figure out whatever it is you want to do. Just try not to get in my way, okay? These cargo haulers don't stop very fast." The screen went black as Danny cut the connection. A moment later, his cargo ship began moving toward the inner system at a leisurely pace, completely ignoring the massive war fleet surrounding him. Zekmoth stared at the empty screen. His bridge crew stared at him. Nobody seemed to know what to do next. "Sir?" his communications officer asked quietly. "Should we destroy the cargo ship?" The Admiral considered this. Destroying one unarmed cargo hauler would hardly demonstrate their military might. Besides, the human had offered to introduce them to someone in charge. Perhaps this Carol person would be more reasonable. "Follow the human ship," he ordered. "Maintain battle formation." And so, the largest military fleet assembled in 2 centuries began following a cargo hauler named Betty Sue toward a human colony, moving at the speed of a heavily loaded truck. 2 days later, they arrived at New Haven Colony. Admiral Zekmoth expected to find massive defense platforms and military installations. Instead, he saw farms, shopping centers, and what appeared to be a new swimming pool under construction. Danny Clark docked his cargo ship at a small spaceport that looked more like a truck stop than a military base. He walked into the colony administration building, leaving his cargo doors open so the robots could unload pizza supplies and prefab bathroom modules. Carol White was exactly as Danny had described her. She was a middle-aged woman with graying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore a business suit that had seen better days and carried a tablet computer that beeped constantly with messages. When Danny brought Admiral Zekmoth to her office, she looked up from her paperwork with the tired expression of someone who had dealt with every possible bureaucratic problem. "Good morning," she said politely. "How can I help you?" Admiral Zekmoth drew himself up to his full height, which was considerable. "I am Admiral Zekmoth of the Vrex Imperial Navy. I command a fleet of 847 warships currently in orbit around your world. The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity, and I am here to demand your surrender." Carol blinked once, then reached for a form from the stack on her desk. "Okay, let me see. Declaration of war. That would be Form GC-447. Do you have your documentation with you?" "Documentation? The formal declaration. I'll need a copy for our files. Also, I'll need proof that you're authorized to represent the Galactic Council. Do you have identification?" The Admiral fumbled for his credentials, feeling more confused by the minute. This was supposed to be a military conquest, not a permit application. Carol examined his ID cards with the same attention she might give to a driver's license. "These look legitimate. Now, regarding your fleet in orbit, do you have parking permits for those ships? 800 vessels is well over our normal capacity. I'll need to check our orbital traffic regulations." "Parking permits?" Zekmoth's voice cracked slightly. "Oh yes, very important. We had a shipping company park their entire fleet here last year without proper permits. Took weeks to sort out the fines. I'd hate for you to have the same problem." Danny Clark had been watching this exchange with growing amusement. "See, Admiral? I told you Carol would get you sorted out." As Carol began pulling out more forms and explaining the colony's various regulations, Admiral Zekmoth realized that his carefully planned military invasion had somehow turned into a visit to the galaxy's most thorough government office. Outside, his 847 warships waited in orbit, their crews wondering why they were getting parking tickets. Admiral Zekmoth returned to his flagship feeling more confused than when he had left. 3 days had passed since his meeting with Carol White, and he was still waiting for the proper forms to be processed. His war fleet remained in orbit around New Haven, getting parking tickets from automated systems that treated his battleships like oversized delivery trucks. The Admiral called an emergency meeting with his senior commanders. They gathered in the war room, staring at tactical displays that showed human colonies going about their normal business as if 800 alien warships were not hanging over their heads. "This is unacceptable," growled Commander Vector, his scales rattling with frustration. "We came here to conquer, not to fill out paperwork." "The humans are making fools of us," agreed Captain Mordek. "My crew is laughing at me. They say we are not warriors anymore, just space bureaucrats." Admiral Zekmoth slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. We will show these humans that we are serious. Order the fleet to target the abandoned mining station in the outer system. We will destroy it as a demonstration of our power." His officers looked relieved. Finally, they would do something that felt like actual warfare. The mining station orbited a dead asteroid in the Alpha Cygni system, far from any major human settlements. It looked old and rusty, with dim lights and no apparent activity. Perfect for a show of force that would get the humans' attention without causing too much damage. "Sir," reported the sensors officer, "the station appears to be abandoned. No life signs detected?" "Excellent," Zekmoth said. "All ships prepare to fire. Let us remind the humans what happens when they ignore the Galactic Council." The fleet opened fire with coordinated precision. Energy beams and plasma bolts struck the mining station from every angle. The small facility disappeared in a brilliant explosion that could be seen from 3 star systems away. Admiral Zekmoth smiled with satisfaction. "There. Now the humans will understand that we mean business." But the mining station had not been abandoned. Miner Greg Thompson had been working late shift with his crew of 43 people, extracting rare metals from the asteroid's core. They were all inside the station when the alien fleet attacked, and none of them survived the destruction. The news reached human space within hours. Admiral Zekmoth expected panic, desperate calls for peace talks or at least some kind of military response. Instead, he received a formal message from something called the Asteroid Mining Consortium. The message was read by a tired-looking woman in a business suit who identified herself as CEO Linda Hayes. She spoke in the same flat, bureaucratic tone that Carol White had used. "We regret to inform you that your recent actions have resulted in an unfortunate workplace accident," she said. 44 employees of the Thompson Mining Company were killed when their facility experienced an unexpected structural failure. We are filing an insurance claim for the destroyed equipment and lost productivity. Please provide your insurance information so we can process compensation for damages. Admiral Zekmoth stared at the message in disbelief. Workplace accident? We destroyed their station with weapons that could level mountains. But the human response got stranger. Instead of military retaliation, the families of the dead miners organized a memorial barbecue. They invited the entire colony to remember Greg Thompson and his crew while eating hamburgers and playing music. Some of them even thanked the Admiral for helping Greg finally get some rest because he had been working too many double shifts. However, Admiral Zekmoth began to notice other changes that he did not immediately understand. Across human space, people started making small adjustments to their daily routines. Danny Clark, the cargo hauler who had first encountered the alien fleet, visited a ship modification yard. He told the mechanics he needed better collision avoidance systems for his route through the asteroid belt. What he actually installed were military-grade shields and weapons that could punch holes through battleship armor. Safety first, Danny explained to anyone who asked. Lots of space debris out there these days. Mining operations throughout human space suddenly became very concerned about workplace safety. They installed emergency response systems that looked suspiciously like point defense cannons. When questioned, the miners explained they were worried about accidental explosions and needed better protective measures. Even the farmers on New Haven started using advanced crop protection methods. Their new equipment was designed to keep away harmful pests that might threaten their harvests. The fact that these pest control systems could shoot down incoming missiles was purely coincidental. Construction foreman Mike Stone began building what he called community storm shelters in every human colony. These shelters had walls thick, enough to stop tank shells, and really good ventilation systems that could survive nuclear blasts. When Carol White asked about the specifications, Mike just shrugged. "Weather's been getting worse," he said. "Better safe than sorry." Admiral Zekmoth watched these developments with growing unease. His intelligence officers reported that human cargo ships were installing navigation upgrades and communication improvements. These upgrades seemed to make the ships much faster and harder to track. Several alien patrol vessels had tried to intercept human cargo haulers, only to find their targets had vanished into hyperspace before weapons could lock. And the most puzzling incidents involved accidents that kept happening to Galactic Council ships. A destroyer from the aquatic depths suddenly lost power and crashed into an asteroid while investigating a human mining claim. The miners expressed deep sympathy and offered to salvage the wreckage at very reasonable rates. A squadron of Virex fighters experienced navigation failures while patrolling near a human research station. They ended up flying into each other in what the humans called a tragic case of pilot error. The research station's staff sent flowers to the survivors. 3 council cruisers suffered mysterious malfunctions that caused their weapon systems to explode internally. Human engineers offered to help repair the damage, noting that these older alien designs can be pretty unreliable. Admiral Zekmoth called another meeting with his commanders. This time they looked worried instead of frustrated. "Sir," reported Captain Mordek, "we have lost 37 ships to various accidents in the past month. The humans claim none of these incidents were hostile actions. They keep apologizing," added Commander Vectar. "They send sympathy cards and fruit baskets. It is very unsettling." The Admiral studied the tactical reports. On paper, the humans were not fighting back. They had not declared war or mobilized their military forces. They continued their normal activities of farming, mining, and building shopping centers. But somehow they kept winning every encounter through what appeared to be pure luck. "Sir," his intelligence officer spoke up nervously, "I think we may have misunderstood something about the humans." "What do you mean?" "They are not treating this as a war. They seem to think we are just an inconvenience." like bad weather or a broken traffic light. They are dealing with us the same way they would handle any other minor problem in their daily lives. Admiral Zekmoth felt a chill run down his spine. The humans were not afraid of his massive fleet. They were not impressed by his advanced weapons or superior technology. They treated the entire Galactic Council like a minor nuisance that would eventually go away if ignored long enough. As if to prove this point, his communications officer received another message from Carol White. She was calling to inform him that his fleet's parking permits had been approved, but there would be additional fees for extended stays. She also wanted to know if any of his ships needed refueling services or emergency repairs. "We offer very competitive rates," she said, helpfully, "and our mechanics are experienced with foreign vehicles." 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council declared war on humanity. Admiral Zekmoth sat in his command chair, staring at reports that made no sense. His mighty fleet of 847 warships had been reduced to less than 400. The rest had suffered accidents that ranged from equipment failures to navigation errors to what the humans politely called unfortunate coincidences. The Admiral's reptilian face had lost its earlier confidence. His scales had dulled from stress and his eyes held the haunted look of someone who no longer understood the world around him. His remaining commanders avoided meeting his gaze during briefings. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "we have received another formal apology from the humans. They expressed deep regret for the mechanical difficulties that caused our supply convoy to explode last week. They are offering free towing services for the debris." Zekmoth made a sound that was half growl, half whimper. The supply convoy had been carrying enough ammunition to level a continent. It had exploded when a human garbage scow had somehow gotten too close to the convoy's lead ship. The garbage scow's pilot, a cheerful man named Rick Davis, had apologized profusely while explaining that his waste disposal system had burped at exactly the wrong moment. "The humans also sent this," the intelligence officer continued, holding up a fruit basket wrapped in colorful paper. "The card says they hope we feel better soon." The Admiral closed his eyes and tried to remember when warfare had made sense. In the old days, enemies shot at each other with weapons. They declared their intentions and fought honorable battles. They did not send fruit baskets and apology cards while accidentally destroying your fleet. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "we are receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council. They want a status report." Admiral Zekmoth had been dreading this moment. How could he explain to the Council that humanity's most effective weapon appeared to be a combination of bureaucratic paperwork and incredible bad luck? He opened the channel and saw the familiar faces of the 12 Council ambassadors staring at him from across space. "Admiral," Ambassador Zethkar's voice crackled through the speakers. "It has been 6 months since you engaged the humans. What is your progress?" Zekmoth straightened his uniform and tried to look professional. "Honored ambassadors, the situation is complex. The humans have proven to be more challenging than anticipated." "Challenging how?" demanded Elder Quinara. "Are they fighting back? Have they mobilized their fleet?" "Not exactly," the Admiral admitted. "They claim they do not have a fleet. They say their ships are all civilian vessels used for cargo transport and construction work. Then why have you not conquered them?" General Rockhan's rocky voice boomed through the speakers. Admiral Zekmoth took a deep breath. "The humans appear to be winning through accidents. We have lost over half our fleet to equipment malfunctions, navigation errors, and what they call really bad timing." The silence from the council chamber stretched for long moments. Finally, Ambassador Thys, of the gas giants, spoke up. "Are you telling us that the humans are defeating you without fighting?" "That is correct, honored ambassador." More silence. Then Elder Quinara spoke in her soft, telepathic voice. "Admiral, we are sending a psychology team to study this situation. Something is clearly wrong with our understanding of human behavior." The psychology team arrived 2 weeks later. It was led by Dr. Zenith, a brilliant scientist from the Mindari race who had studied dozens of alien cultures. She spent days interviewing captured human prisoners, analyzing human communications, and observing human colonies from orbit. Her final report was 300 pages long, but the conclusion was simple. The humans did not see the Galactic Council. as a threat worth worrying about. It is not that they are fearless, Dr. Zenith explained to Admiral Zekmoth. It is that they are so confident in their own abilities that our declaration of war ranks somewhere between a parking ticket and a noise complaint on their scale of daily concerns. The Admiral stared at her. You mean they are ignoring us? Worse than that. They have assessed our capabilities and concluded that we are not dangerous enough to require their full attention. They are treating us like a minor nuisance that will eventually solve itself. This revelation led to an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The 12 ambassadors gathered once again in their great chamber, but this time the mood was very different from 6 months earlier. This is impossible, muttered Commander Veltar. How can a species be so arrogant? It is not arrogance, Doctor, Zenith replied. It is competence. The humans have been fighting wars among themselves for thousands of years. They have survived ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts, and nuclear weapons. From their perspective, 12 alien races with energy. Weapons are just another problem to solve. Ambassador Zethkar looked older than his 800 years. What do you recommend we do? We could try direct negotiation, suggested the doctor. Perhaps if we spoke to their actual leadership instead of colony administrators. And so it was that Admiral Zekmoth found himself requesting a meeting with Earth's Global Defense Coordinator. He expected to meet with a military genius or a skilled diplomat. Instead, he was connected to Ben Carter, a former insurance adjuster who had gotten the job because he was the only person who had bothered to apply for it. Ben appeared on the communication screen wearing a wrinkled shirt and holding a cup of coffee. He looked like he had been woken up from a nap, which he had. Yeah, hi, Ben said, checking his phone for text messages. You're the alien guy, right? The one who's been bothering Carol about the parking permits? Admiral Zekmoth felt his eye twitch. I am Admiral Zekmoth of the Vrex Imperial Navy. I command the combined forces of the Galactic Council. We declared war on your species 6 months ago. Oh, that, Ben said, taking a sip of coffee. Yeah, Susan from the colony office mentioned something about that. Did you try filling out the proper forms? There's a whole process for territorial disputes. Forms, the Admiral whispered. Sure, hang on. Ben started typing on his computer. Let me pull up the website. Okay, here we go. You need to file a formal complaint with the Department of Interstellar Relations. That's Form ISR 445. Then you'll need an environmental impact study, which is Form EIS 78. After that, there's a mandatory public comment period of 60 days, followed by a hearing with the Interstellar Mediation Board. Ben scrolled through the website, completely oblivious to the Admiral's growing horror. The whole process usually takes about 6 months, but it can be longer if there are appeals. Oh, and there's a filing fee of 500 credits. Do you have a credit card, or would you prefer to pay by check? Admiral Zekmoth opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No sound came out. The good news is that we have a pretty good track record with dispute resolution, Ben continued. Last year we settled a disagreement with the Centauri Trading Company about mineral rights on Kepler 186F. Everybody ended up happy. We are not a trading company, the Admiral managed to say. We are a military alliance that has declared war on your entire species. Ben looked puzzled. War? Why would you want to do that? Wars are expensive and nobody wins. Wouldn't it be easier to just file a complaint and work things out like civilized beings? 3 hours later, Admiral Zekmoth was filling out Form ISR 445, while Ben patiently explained the dispute resolution process. The Admiral's remaining commanders watched in stunned silence as their leader became the first military officer in galactic history to file a formal complaint instead of conducting an invasion. The war officially ended 2 weeks later, when the Galactic Council formally withdrew their declaration of war. They reclassified the entire conflict as a diplomatic misunderstanding with minor property damage. The final paperwork was filed by Carol White, who noted that all parking fees had been paid in full and thanked the aliens for choosing New Haven colony for their extended stay. On his farm on New Haven, Joe Miller was still completely unaware that aliens existed. He continued to complain to his neighbor about how his new storm shelter kept making weird beeping noises at night. He had no idea that the beeping came from military-grade sensors that had been quietly protecting his tomatoes from galactic invasion for 6 months. The universe, it seemed, was a much quieter place when humans were not impressed by it.